The first thing she noticed was the sound, laughter that didn't belong inside a military building after lights out. Low, confident, and careless, the kind that says, "We own this hallway." The second thing she noticed was the sign on the door, Building 12, Temporary Quarters. That matched her orders. That matched the map the admin chief had texted her 10 minutes earlier. That matched the base directory. So Petty Officer Second Class Lila Harlow, 26, 5'4", compact shoulders under a plain gray hoodie, hair pulled tight, duffel strap biting into her collarbone, exhaled once and pushed the side door open like she'd done 1,000 times in 1,000 places, calm, quiet, and trying not to draw attention because attention was what made trouble. Trouble still found her. For men looked up from a half-circle of folded chairs like she'd walked into their living room. Navy PT gear, sweaty shirts, a half-empty sports drink on the floor. One of them sat back with his hands laced behind his head, smirking like a judge. Another, thick neck, shaved head, the posture of someone who'd been getting away with things for a long time, stood up slow and blocked the hole as if it was instinct. The tallest one didn't move at all. He simply turned his body so the door was no longer a door. It was a wall made of muscle and entitlement. Lila stopped just inside, letting the door swing shut behind her. And in the half-second of silence before anyone spoke, she felt the air change, like oxygen had become a privilege you had to earn. "You're lost," the shaved-head petty officer said, and he made it sound like an accusation. Lila kept her voice even. "I'm assigned here. Temporary quarters until my room opens on the other side." The man with the smirk laughed once, sharp, performative. "This isn't for staff. This is overflow." He looked her up and down with lazy confidence, like the hoodie and jeans erased the rank she'd earned. "You can turn around." Lila shifted her duffel higher, careful, steady. She'd learned years ago that if you moved too fast around insecure men, they treated it like permission. "My orders say Building 12, she replied. "If there's a mismatch, I can call the duty desk and we can clear it up." The tall one finally stepped forward, just a half step, but it swallowed space. "No need," he said, voice flat. "You're not staying." The fourth man, younger, eyes darting, discomfort trying to climb out of his throat, glanced between them like he wanted to disagree but didn't know how. Lila saw him and recognized the type. Not cruel, just weak when it mattered. The kind who told himself he was not involved while standing close enough to benefit. The shaved-head petty officer crossed his arms. "Look, rookie," he emphasized the word like it was a slap. "Whoever sent you wrong. You can leave now and save yourself some embarrassment." Lila swallowed the first response that rose in her chest, because the first response was pride, and pride didn't keep you safe. "I'm not a rookie," she said. Not louder, just clearer. "And I'm not here to argue. I'm here to rack my gear and sleep." The smirking one leaned forward. "Oh," he said, voice syrupy with disrespect. "Listen to that tone." He tilted his head toward the others, performing his amusement. "She thinks she's important." Lila felt her pulse remain steady, which was the strangest thing about it. Her body didn't spike into panic. It settled into readiness. That readiness had a history. It started in Casper, Wyoming, in a small house where her mother worked double shifts and her father, an old Navy corpsman with quiet eyes, taught his daughter one simple rule when she was 10. If someone touches you like you're not a person, you end the conversation. He didn't teach her to be violent. He taught her to be hard to break. At 15, she found a jiu-jitsu gym behind a tire shop and learned how leverage made bullies look clumsy. At 18, she joined the Navy because she wanted discipline and purpose in a world where effort meant something. She was good at her job, too good to stay unnoticed for long. Somewhere along the way, she got pulled into the orbit of Naval Special Warfare Training Support, then into a combatives instructor pipeline so selective that most people didn't even know it existed. She spent 3 years teaching close-quarters defense, control, and retention to people whose calmness could freeze a room. She learned to speak softly because the loudest person in a fight is usually the one trying to scare themselves into winning. And she learned something else, too. Outside that world, people saw a small woman and invented a story where she was safe to disrespect. Those stories got people hurt. Back in Building 12, the shaved-head petty officer took a step closer, close enough that Lila could smell sweat and gum uncertainty. "Show me your ID," he said. Lila didn't flinch. She reached into her pocket and pulled out her phone instead, tapping twice, bringing up her order's email, and holding it out at a polite distance. "Here," she said. "You can verify with the duty office." He squinted at the screen as if reading was beneath him, then snorted like the words were optional. "That could be anything," he said, and handed nothing back because she hadn't handed it to him. She'd simply shown it. The smoking man stood up now too, enjoying the escalation like it was entertainment. "This is candidate space," he said. "You don't belong." The younger man, the uneasy one, muttered, "Maybe just let her," and the tall one cut him off with a single look. Silence. Lila felt the trap forming. It wasn't complicated. It never was. 4 men, 1 hallway, a door behind her, a story they'd already decided was true. Intruder, liar, problem. She could leave. She could walk out, sleep in her car, fix it in the morning, avoid conflict. That would be the easiest path. And in a different life, maybe she would have taken it. But she'd taken the easy path before, and it always taught the same lesson. When you reward disrespect with retreat, you train people to escalate. Lila nodded once, as if conceding, and shifted her body slightly toward the door. "Fine," she said quietly. "I'll go to the duty desk and clear it up." The shaved-head petty officer smiled like he'd won something. "Good," he said. "Wrong step, rookie." And then, because he couldn't resist turning it into a performance, he reached out and grabbed her shoulder to spin her around, hard. That was the moment. Not the insult, not the laughter, not the wall of bodies. The grab, the assumption that her body was public property. Lila's duffel slid down her arm. Her boots squeaked against the tile as she turned, and in that fraction of a second she saw the shaved-head petty officer's face up close, eyes bright with power, mouth ready to laugh again. And she understood exactly how far they were willing to go because no one had stopped them yet. His hand rose higher, not to guide but to control, and his other hand came up toward her throat like it belonged there. "You're leaving," he said, and his fingers closed. The hallway narrowed into a single point of pressure and breath. The world did not slow down for Lila. It clarified. Her hands moved, not like a demonstration in a gym, not like a movie, but like a reflex honed through repetition and consequence. She didn't think, "I'm going to hurt him." She thought, "I'm going to live." She broke the grip, created space, and the shaved-head petty officer stumbled back, shocked, not at pain, but at the audacity of resistance. The tall one surged forward as if size could reassert reality. Chairs scraped. The smoking one cursed under his breath. The younger one flinched like he'd just realized how fast a joke becomes a report. Lila kept her feet under her, shoulders level, eyes moving, voice low. "Back up," she said, and there was no anger in it, only warning. They didn't listen. People like that never listen to words when they think bodies will do. The tall one reached again, and Lila used his momentum against him, redirecting the collision so he lost balance and hit the floor with a heavy, stunned sound that made the younger man inhale sharply. The smirking one stepped in half-heartedly, then froze when he saw how quickly the room had flipped from fun to consequences. Lila didn't chase anyone. She didn't grandstand. She held space. She kept control. And in the middle of it all, she felt a sting at the back of her head where it had met the wall, the dull throb of impact trying to bloom into nausea. She ignored it long enough to keep herself upright. "Don't," she said again, because she still didn't want this. She never wanted it. The shaved-head petty officer, humiliated now, tried to lunge, one last attempt to reclaim dominance, and his feet tangled with a chair leg. He went down hard, more clumsy than brave, and the sound of his own fall finally replaced the laughter with fear. That's when the door at the end of the hall slammed open so violently it rebounded off the stopper. A senior chief in khakis filled the frame like a thundercloud, face already angry before he even understood the scene. "What the hell is going on?" he barked, eyes sweeping from a man on the floor to another backed against the wall to Lila standing centered, breathing controlled, hoodie slightly twisted, duffel strap hanging loose, gaze steady. The shaved-head petty officer pushed up on his hands, voice hoarse and desperate. Senior Chief, she attacked us. Stop, the Senior Chief snapped, and the single word carried the kind of authority that makes people remember their names. He pointed at the shaved-head petty officer without even looking at him. You. Quiet. Then he looked at Lila. Identify yourself. Lila swallowed once, tasting copper. Petty Officer Second Class Lila Harlow, Senior Chief. Temporary assignment. Orders for this building. The Senior Chief's eyes narrowed. Orders. Now. Lila lifted her phone with a hand that didn't shake and presented the screen. The Senior Chief stepped close enough to read, and as his eyes tracked the lines, something changed in his face. Not softness, not yet, but recognition. The kind of recognition that says, oh, this is bigger than you idiots understand. He looked up slowly, gaze moving from Lila to the men scattered around the hallway like wreckage. You put hands on her? He asked, voice lower now, more dangerous because it wasn't loud. No one answered. The younger man tried, quietly. Senior Chief, I didn't, not a word. The Senior Chief cut in. He keyed his radio. Base security. This is Senior Chief Alvarez. I need you at Building 12 temporary quarters. Now. Medical 2. Then he looked at the shaved-head petty officer like he was trying to decide whether disappointment or fury fit better. Do you have any idea who you just touched? The smoking man opened his mouth, then closed it when he realized there was no joke that could save him. The Senior Chief turned the phone slightly, reading again as if hoping he'd misread. He hadn't. Naval Special Warfare Training Staff, he said out loud, each word landing heavier than the last. Close quarters instructor attachment. His jaw tightened. You assaulted an instructor. In government quarters. On a military installation. The tall one shifted on the floor like he wanted to stand, then thought better of it. The shaved-head petty officer's face drained, not because he suddenly grew a conscience, but because he could finally see the cliff edge he'd been dancing on. Lila's head throbbed harder now that the immediate threat was gone. She touched the back of her skull lightly, checked her fingers, and kept her expression neutral. Senior Chief Alvarez noticed. You hit your head? He asked. Lila nodded once. War, she said. I should get checked. You will, he replied, then aimed his attention back at the men. None of you move. You are being detained. If anyone speaks, it will only get worse. The younger one, eyes wide, guilt rising too late, whispered, I tried to tell them, and the Senior Chief's stare shut him down. Boots thundered in the distance. 2 Masterarms personnel arrived fast, followed by a corpsman with a bag. The hallway filled with uniforms and purpose, and suddenly the 4 men looked very small, like boys who'd been playing grown-up and got caught. The corpsman guided Lila toward a chair, checking her pupils, asking questions in a calm voice. Lila answered clearly, refusing to dramatize anything. That was another thing her father had taught her. When you tell the truth, you don't need theatrics. Senior Chief Alvarez spoke with security in a tight, controlled tone, pointing, directing, naming. The shaved-head petty officer tried again, weakly. Senior Chief, it was a misunderstanding. A misunderstanding is reading a map wrong, Alvarez said. This was you deciding you were allowed to put your hands on someone. He leaned closer. And now you're going to explain that decision to people who don't laugh at this. The next day, the story didn't travel like gossip. It traveled like a warning. On bases, certain stories move fast because they protect the system from rot. Don't touch people. Don't assume you're untouchable. Don't confuse arrogance with authority. Within 48 hours, Lila was moved into proper quarters with correct documentation posted at the desk and her name on the roster. The 4 men were not moved into anything except a long, uncomfortable process where every excuse got weighed against one simple fact. They had created the problem with their hands. The shaved-head petty officer lost rank and privileges and got reassigned away from anything that smelled like special warfare training. The tall one learned that size doesn't look impressive when it's attached to poor judgment. The smoking one discovered that just joking isn't a defense when someone's neck is involved. And the younger one, the one who hesitated, was ordered to write a statement and sit through leadership counseling that forced him to face the thing he'd been avoiding. Watching harm and staying silent is still choosing a side. Lila didn't celebrate any of it. She didn't post about it. She didn't retell it with extra flay. She showed up to work, taught what she was assigned to teach, and kept doing the job with the same quiet precision that had made her dangerous in the first place. Not dangerous like a bully, but dangerous like a professional who can't be controlled by intimidation. A week later, outside a training annex, the younger man approached her alone, hands visible, voice careful, as if volume could trigger consequences. "Petty Officer Harlow," he said. I'm sorry. I should have done more. I should have stopped it before it got that far." Lila studied him for a long moment, not to punish him, but to decide whether he meant it. "Yes," she said simply. "You should have." His face tightened like he expected more. Anger, forgiveness, a speech. Lila gave him neither. "If you want to be the kind of man you tell yourself you are," she continued, "you don't wait until someone gets hurt to find your courage." He nodded, swallowing hard. "Understood." Lila adjusted the strap on her bag and started walking again, not because she was dismissing him, but because the lesson didn't need ceremony. It needed repetition, and as she disappeared down the corridor, the base carried on with its routines, formation, training, maintenance, the endless machinery of readiness. Only now, for men had learned the hard way that the most dangerous person in the room is often the one who doesn't need to be loud to be in control. If you're watching this and you've ever seen someone get cornered because people thought they could get away with it, drop where you're watching from in the comments and tell me this. Did someone step in? Or did everyone stay silent until it was too late? And if you want more stories that remind you why respect isn't weakness, it's discipline, hit subscribe for Battleborn Veteran. Because the next rookie someone underestimates might be the one person in the hallway who actually knows how to end the fight.